Hi, it's me, Jamal, back once again, but this time with some New World content. I want to talk a little bit about the beta we've just had and cover a few things that I think are important, both in the design philosophy of the MMO and in terms of the actual balance within New World and the content that it offers.
Oh no, this guy dead. God, fuck it, I've got Poseidon on the line. No, wait, I think this guy... Thank you. Thank you, friend. Never mind, we're pulling. Yeah, welcome to the fucking fame train, motherfuckers.
I'm not going to give too much away in terms of the actual content within the game because I think it's fair enough that people want to go and experience that for the first time themselves when it does release. There will be some little bits and clips from some of the content, one of the dungeons in particular, a few clips of bits of PvP and bits of our own fun that we found within the game. So first of all, let's talk about design philosophy within an MMO. What does an MMO actually mean? Obviously, MMO stands for Massively Multiplayer Online, which means lots and lots of players in an online space. Now, the most important thing for me, having played a lot of MMOs over the years, from some really rubbish and half-assed pay-to-win ones to things like WoW and more recently Final Fantasy XIV. What makes an MMO so special for me, and the thing I look for, is a reason to have all of those people in that space. It's all good and well having an MMO, but what use is it if there's no real interaction between those people within it? In WoW, you have, of course, you have the PvP, which is battlegrounds, you have arenas, you have raids, and raids can, back in the day, were a 40-man scope, which is a lot of people, that's a big undertaking. These massive bosses, it felt huge and it felt epic, the world felt huge. You felt like a tiny cog within the machine, and I think that's a really important aspect of these MMOs, and a lot of these can sort of lose it over time. It becomes so focused intently on just what you do as a single player rather than what you can accomplish as a bigger group. The interactions with such a large community of people being within one online space are limitless. There's going to be 100 different personalities, 100 people with their own goals, their own things they want to achieve, their own focus within the game. And those different focuses, when they blend together, are what make it a real breathing world. For me, during this beta, I really got a sense of that. Because the crafting is so important and so intuitive and in-depth, working together to craft or to gather certain materials for it, it lent to being part of a larger goal. There was one moment where we were sort of on the cusp of getting to the point where our gathering was all reaching a certain level and we were able to gather the next tier of material upward. In this case, it was star metal. So we all wanted to make star metal tools to improve our gathering, which would, as a group, improve everybody's gameplay. It would allow us to gather the materials more efficiently, higher chance for higher end mats due to being able to have 3 perks on our tool rather than just the 2. But to do this, it required one of us to at least have a certain level of engineering skill. So what we did is we pooled our resources together in order for me to level up my engineering skill high enough so that I could craft everybody's star metal tools. And that coming together of a group of people felt awesome. It's amazing. I don't think I've ever had that in an MMO before. There were people chopping wood, there were people gathering iron so we could make steel, so that we could have enough material to get enough star metal bars together, as well as enough material for me to make lower end stuff so that I could level it up to the point where I can make the star metal tools. And that felt epic. It really felt epic. And there's so many opportunities because of the crafting system where working as a group to boost those things within your faction or your company are really beneficial. And it makes you, the small task of going out and chopping just some wood, something more. It makes it feel like, you know, you're part of a community. You're actually part of a living, breathing world. With New World, I do feel like this is a philosophy that they want, and they're trying to push that if you come together as a group, there are things you can achieve that you will not be able to achieve on your own, or are much harder to achieve on your own, at least much slower. I mean, to buy a settlement in this game, which is buying a region essentially, it requires you to have 100,000 gold. Now, without a concerted group effort, there is little to no chance of you gathering 100,000 gold before a company of 100 people have got 100 people together 1,000 gold so that they can buy a settlement. That, I think, is again, it lends itself to the camaraderie and the sort of inter-faction, inter-company relationships that cause drama and narrative within the setting, and that's really, really cool. There was so many times where, you know, you see people of a certain faction and you know they own this settlement, and it felt, I don't know, you know, there was notoriety there. There was almost almost fame, I guess, is, you know that person is the governor or the leader of a certain company that have achieved some good things within the game. I think that's only as it goes on further and further and for longer, those things will become even more apparent. People who've got certain achievements, people who are wearing certain armor that you know they have to be a certain level to craft, or have gathered certain legendary materials to craft with certain named weapons, etc. And this is just a small touch of what we got to see within the beta. That whole aspect and that philosophy makes me very excited to pursue it further on release. I was actually really fortunate during this beta test to have New World drop into my stream briefly, and you know, I'm not the biggest streamer. I was certainly wasn't one of the only people they dropped in on, I'm sure. At the time I had around 20 to 30 people, and they just come in, they hung out, they asked how we were finding the game, asked, you know, they were very real, just chatted about different things, and it was cool to get their opinion on some stuff whilst I was there playing it for the first time. They actually said something I thought was really important, and it gives us a little insight into their mentality and their philosophy going forward, which was and these were their words, these games are co-created by the players and the studio. And I really think it's true, especially in something with this where it's very sandboxy and every world and every server will be different. I think it's about providing the space and the tools for them to do those things. This game provides a perfect setting for that. There's a lot based on player interaction and actual group interaction that will shape the world. I think that's a really important aspect to any MMO nowadays, and especially one where actual ownership of land is a possibility. So let's talk about the content I actually got to try out during the beta. I actually played the beta before this, that was months and months ago. I can't remember when now. And I didn't play an awful lot during it for whatever reason. There wasn't a ton of content to try out. What I did try out, I did enjoy. I think I played around with the hammer a little bit. I think I played around with the hammer and the life staff and the longsword. And it was okay. It's come a long way since then, I would say. Combat definitely feels like it has. I love the addition of the new weapons. I thought that was interesting, and I foresee there being scope for even more weapons based on the elements that are within the game, which I think it makes it super interesting for different builds, different combinations of weaponry and armor. One thing that I was really surprised about was the dungeons, the actual dungeons, the expeditions as they're called. They really surprised me. Some of the bosses had some difficult mechanics. Some of them were actually pretty hard, and they were more like puzzles. There was bits of jump puzzle and working stuff out. Some of the footage you're seeing now is from an expedition called Starstone. And it really did surprise me how much I enjoyed them. There were great bits of group content, and there were a lot of, from what I could tell, there are a few other dungeons in there that I didn't even get to see. It's just such a great start for the PvE content. There was corruptions, which were in-game events. They would appear throughout a region, and you'd go in, there'd be a load of mobs, and it would be sort of waves of mobs, and you'd have to cleanse something within the area to remove the corruption, and depending on your participation, you would get a little chest and some XP and some gold and some faction tokens. The corruptions are quite good fun as just a sort of side content, something to do as you're going between other bits of content. And maybe you're questing in an area and there's a few in your zone that are level appropriate. Now and again, you will get a slightly higher level corruption in the zone, which will require a group of you to go and do. Those can be quite good fun. But in terms of the dungeons, there was one in particular where we were a little under-leveled for it, and it was very difficult. We didn't finish it in the end, and we returned to it after getting a few extra levels and some better gear, and we were finally able to do it. There were mechanics in there that made it difficult. It was satisfying to complete the bosses based on their difficulty and having to work it out, progress through these dungeons. A great sense of accomplishment when we actually did it as a group. So I'm looking forward to trying a lot of that out. I can't implore you enough to go and try the PvE because it wasn't really something I was expecting to get from this game. It's very much got a focus on PvP, I think, because of how the game works, how land ownership works, and world PvP. There is a lot of people who are, solely focused on that aspect. And it is very good. I got to take part in a few 50v50 wars. Those were interesting, to say the least. I think given some of the weapons and the balancing of the weapons, these wars were, now and again, they could be a little one-sided. Defense seemed marginally easier than attack. A couple of attacks that we were stuck in our camp and we couldn't even get out, really. We were just getting zerged and swamped by the defenders. I didn't actually get to try the outpost rush during this beta, so that's something that I'll have to try on release. World PvP was some of the most fun content in the game. Being just a little group of you and going around and seeing there's a few people flagged up and sparking a little bit of conflict. Maybe you're doing PvP quests in an area to destabilize the influence on a certain town. That was incredible fun. Kill a couple of another faction, and suddenly their faction are calling out that there's enemies in the zone. So more people start turning up. You start getting more of yours to turn up. And that's where really the MMO aspect starts to shine, because there's no limit to how many of you can turn up to these zones. I had some PvP fights where there were 30 plus on each side, and they were lasting hours. And it was incredible fun. It's actually worthwhile to go and do. It gave XP, it gave faction tokens, it gave faction rep. Now and again, it would drop loot as well, actually, which I think is just a great incentive to go out and PvP. I really was enjoying the PvP. However, I would say there are a couple of balance issues when it comes to some of the weaponry, and I think that is maybe the number of people using that weaponry at once and how many are on each side sort of vary the balance. In the big group fights, 50v50s, it seemed like the Great Axe was the go-to for the majority of people. There was actually a bug, I assume it was a bug, where when you heavy swung with the Great Axe, you were actually able to hit the person twice with one swing, which meant that sometimes if you crit, you would almost half health the player, if not outright kill them in some cases. As much as I enjoyed doing that, I don't think it was intended, and I don't think it was particularly balanced. Same with the Black Hole. A lot of the 50-50s were just 10 folks with great axes, Black Hole spamming, and the only people who were able to run away from that, the only other weapon that I think was a little bit busted, which is the Berserking tree on the hatchet. People who use the Berserker tree, this ability is so good. Triggers a Berserk mode that increases all attack damage by 20% while active. Obviously, really good. Berserker mode will be active for 15 seconds. Really good. Cooldown triggers once it ends. So it's about 28.5 seconds full before you can Berserk again. So if you take all of the stuff in this tree, 1, movement speed by 20%. That's absolutely busted. Like, early game, when you're trying to chase people down, they would use the Great Axe to, like, charge away. Then they would use this ability, which would make them 20% faster, and you'd never catch them. Right? Brutal. While Berserk is active, gain a portion of your health back every 5 seconds. While they're running away, they're just fucking healing. Again, brutal. A constant heal.
and it's percentage based. And obviously the longer their berserk lasts, the more healing they're going to do. Berserking Purge, remove all crowd control effects. Again, so busted. Like, you can, if you pick this, you use this ability, you can walk out of those black holes, you can get out of a stun, any hammer stuns, anything like that, any snares. It makes you basically impossible to catch. And it also means you can't be CC'd very easily. But while in Berserk, your attacks are uninterruptible. And you can't be staggered. That's huge. Like, all of these, everything in the Berserking tree, amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. You do so much damage by doing this. And then, as if that wasn't enough, as if you weren't hard enough to kill, right? As if you were not hard enough to kill. Once you have 10 abilities, 10 points in this, and you put your 11th on there, when you receive lethal damage, avoid death, reduce to 50 HP, and gain immortality for 3 seconds. 3 second window to pop a potion, eat a ration, get your great axe out and run away. Like, all of that's so good. 3 seconds is a long time in PvP. This saved me so much in that war. That's probably why I didn't die quite as many times as I probably should have. But it's a really good tree.
Berserking tree probably needs a little bit of a nerf. People were using that in conjunction with the Great Axe because of this dash.
A nerf. I think that'll get a nerf. This will definitely get a nerf. They will lower... I would put my left testicle on it that they will lower the range of this charge. Because you can charge this. Look how far this charge. This is with a big, heavy two-handed weapon. Allows you to go this far. And that quickly.
When both of those abilities are used in conjunction with each other, it's near impossible to fight those people because they can run away almost infinitely without you ever really being able to catch up to them, as well as them self-healing. In terms of the Berserking tree, I feel like changing the passive just healing of using Berserking into some sort of lifesteal, so it promotes you to be more aggressive with it rather than using it as a defensive just to run away and heal up, would make more sense, and I think thematically would probably be better. My favorite thing to do in any MMO, pretty much every single MMO I've ever played, is the fishing profession. It's always the most fun. It's always the most satisfying to me. I think it's because there's an aspect of gambling with it. Is what are you going to get on the end of that line? So, sadly, on day one, I think actually day one and day two, fishing was bugged and it caused you to crash. But the fishing is really satisfying in this game. It's a lot of fun. There's the chance that you get, now and again, a tier 4 chest that you can fish up, and that will drop gems, it will drop platinum, gold bars, a bit of gold itself. I think that is awesome, as well as it being the only way of getting a lot of the foodstuffs, a lot of the things, craft materials that you need for certain potions in Arcana and certain things in the cooking tree. It just complements a lot of different things in the game. So I put a lot of time into it this beta. I actually did all of the fishing quests, almost. At least I did all of the ones up to the point I got to. I actually wasn't able to wear half of the fishing gear that I'd been given because I wasn't high enough level for it. Which I'm sort of excited to get on that in release and maximize my fishing. I think I got it to about 98 during the beta. It was also a nice thing for us to do in the guild. We would go and we had a couple of fishing competitions. We got random people to join us. One thing I would like to see if them add to that is every time you pick up a fish, it puts the information in the area chat, so you can see the weight, you can see the size, you can see what type of fish it is in an area around you. So when you do things like that, you know, say somebody does get a rare or legendary fish out of the water, or a massive fish out of the water, you know, it shows up and people can sort of celebrate that. I think it's just a lovely little social aspect. The emotes already do that. When you use an emote, it posts it in the area chat. So I don't think it'd be too hard to implement that. One of the things I'm really interested in doing, it's probably what I'm going to pursue on release, is the fact that you get fish fillets, which can be used for the town boards to hand in a lot of quests, which is a great source of XP, and the fish oil that you get out of it. There's a lot of money to be made selling fishing components on the auction house or in the trading posts in all the towns. So I think that's when I get to release. I'm going to really focus on that, see how much money I can make, because I would really like to make enough money in our company for us to go and buy one of the settlements. So in summary, I would say beta, huge improvement on the last one. Loads of extra content that wasn't there to begin with and I wasn't expecting. Expeditions and dungeons were a highlight for me. Something, again, I really wasn't expecting to find within the game. Crafting and gathering were really enjoyable, and the way they interact with each other and cause social interactions with all the other players is, again, fantastic. World PvP was some of the most fun I've had in any game. Wars, I think, need some work based on the balancing of the weapons. I'm sure that will come with time, and I'm sure this beta showed a lot of that. Other than balance, I really haven't got much bad to say about it. I had an absolute blast with the people I got to play with. We spent pretty much every day for 16 plus hours doing almost menial tasks a lot of the time. We were making our own content. We had fishing competitions. We dueled each other outside the towns. I think that that's a sign that the game has got a lot to offer when it just gives you the space and the tools to do that. So if you did enjoy this video and it give you an insight into the things that New World has to offer in release in September, and please do give it a like and subscribe. I'm probably going to do a lot more of this, obviously, on release. I really wanted to just compartmentalize my thoughts and what I got to experience throughout the beta. And if there's anything you're interested in and what you're looking forward to, let me know down below. With that said, I'll see you all in September. Fish on or flag up.